Good morning, good afternoon, depending on what coast you're on. Today we will be talking about Flowty. It's a new way to access some liquidity for your illiquid NFTs is how I've been wording it. And we have, of course, Mike Levy from Flowty here today. How are you doing, Mike?
Doing well. Thank you for having me on. Great to be here with you.
Yeah, so wanted to sort of get right into a little of the background of Floaty, like where you saw a need for this in the market. It's generally a new way of investing in NFTs, but not full ownership. So how did this idea start?
Yes, so I would say that there are a few different aspects here. The first thing is early in the Top Shot days, I was fortunate enough to be in the closed beta. And among other people in the closed beta, there were a lot of people who were running into this situation that they would join the platform, get really excited, deploy kind of all their capital into Top Shot and other NFTs, and then wake up and say, hang on, I actually need liquidity to make further investments, to participate in the next pack drop, to do anything else, to do real life expenses, rent, some car issue, who knows. And what they would do is say, I don't really want to sell my assets, my NFTs just yet. So people would do, we'll call the black market version of what we now formalize, which is, hey, Mike, can I borrow $5,000? I will send you a $10,000 Top Shot asset to hold on to until I pay you back, which is essentially, if you think about it, kind of a peer-to-peer pawn shop model. And I think that's a really easy way for us to contextualize the platform for new users.
Yeah, and it's really cool sort of the way that you described it, as back then you just kind of had to trust other people on Discord. So this provides you with a more trusted platform in order to do it. So you have a couple co-founders. Explain, like, did you find them through the Top Shot Discord or beyond that?
Yes, so this is a good segue. So the kind of the second driver of the platform itself is, I would say, my financial background. I come from the finance world, investment banking, private equity, all that good stuff. And one thing that's quite clear in finance world is that every asset, for homes, art, collectibles, stocks, anything else, is used as collateral to take out loans and is used for other financial tools and products. And so NFTs had a pretty immature infrastructure relative to the popularity of the asset class. So we thought it was a pretty needed tool, especially in the Top Shot ecosystem. And so that is actually what prompted me to start looking for potential partners here. I have a finance background. I do not have a tech or coding or development background. And so I started kind of reaching out, I want to say as long ago as November 2020. So really before things started blowing up, I started reaching out to other people in the Top Shot Discord. I had a number of friends in smaller, alpha groups, as they call them, smaller offshoot groups from the Top Shot Discord, and reached out to friends in there. And so have been working with two co-founders. So one is Arsenic. Arsenic is, that's his handle. His name is Guillaume. He is from Montreal, and he has a web design and strong tech background. He's actually an art blocks artist. So he is the artist behind Unigrids and Beatboxes. And he was part of the closed beta of Top Shot. Really, really nice guy. He today is less involved than he was up front. Today he's an advisor for us, but he's a co-founder of the business, owns a stake of the business. And our third co-founder is a guy named Austin Klein. Austin was also part of the closed beta of Top Shot. He was actually consulted before Top Shot was launched as part of the design kind of consultation, part of the panels they ran early on. And very early in the Top Shot days, when they were having some scaling and tech issues, they reached out to him. But Austin is our CTO and kind of heads up the tech and dev side of the business.
Yeah, so right now it's basically just you and Austin working
Yes,
day to day.
Yeah, I would say yes, day to day. We have a couple of contractors who help us out with content, social, with some lighter tech needs. I would say more kind of IT needs than strict coding needs. And so our team of people who help us out is probably 4 internally, and then we outsourced a lot of our back end development early on, primarily because there aren't that many developers who know Cadence, which is the language that you need to build on Flow. So we actually outsourced a bit of our development. We have now kind of finished that relationship and are on our own from a back end standpoint, but we do continue to outsource some of our front end work, and it's by design. We want to be in a place where we are launched and have completed our fundraising, because before we do kind of full-time recruiting, we want to be in the position to bring on the best people we can. And a lot of the higher caliber people want a more stable situation before they'll kind of jump on board. So we are kind of working with friends of ours who are outsourced developers right now. So from a core standpoint, I would say 4 of us internally and a few outside collaborators.
Yeah, and so still early, still new. You guys launched, was it now 10 days ago or so? How has the first sort of couple weeks been? Are you seeing a lot of interest from people that you expected to have interest? Is so far so good?
Yeah, so it's been a really exciting first 10 days, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been a big grind to get it off the ground, to get it launched, and yeah, we've definitely seen good interest so far. We initially capped loan size at $5,000 per loan, with the rationale just simply being it's a new product. We've tested it extensively, but who knows what could go wrong? It's blockchain technology. There are hacks, there are other issues. And so we wanted to just make sure people had an opportunity to test out the product, try the product without putting too much capital down. We've since, by kind of popular demand and by the market talking, increased that to 10,000. And we did see a $10,000 loan. I think it was on Tuesday or Monday. And we'll likely push that again pretty soon. But we've seen really nice traction so far. I want to say somewhere between 30 and 50 loans have been completed. Some of them are, I would say, promotional style loans where like I put up the listing or one of our teammates does with favorable terms, but a lot of them are organic. And we're excited about the traction. The most exciting part is that we have a pretty vibrant community. We've got a growing Discord of about 1,200 members. We've got a 5,000 person Twitter following, and people are coming up with really interesting use cases for the platform, for the product, asking good questions. And we're viewing this as an educational time. We want to make sure people understand the product, understand the use cases of it. And we think we're achieving that. And our short-term goal is to offer coverage and support to more than just Top Shot. And so that's coming in the very near future. We're hoping as soon as next week we can support a lot of other collections on Flow.
Yeah, so that'll be a good sort of segue into what I wanted to ask next, which was if we could just sort of go over a little high level how it works, because we had Logan Hitchcock, who works at Lucky Trader. He just put out an article that breaks it down, I think, pretty well. So I think the best way to do this might be to separate out the borrower side and the lender side. So, unsure what our audience, how much background they have from a financial standpoint. And I know whenever it comes to things like borrowing, lending, leverage, it can get a little difficult to understand. So I think maybe if we just break it down like that. So I guess the first question I would have is the use case for a borrower. Why would someone need to be on the borrower side, and how can they come to the platform in order to get what they want?
Yeah, so I think that's a really good point with regard to it being a somewhat complex topic in general. So, but before even diving into the borrower side or the lender side, I think just even stepping back beyond that, the primary goal of the platform is being able to match people who need liquidity or want liquidity with those who have capital that they are looking to deploy and generate a return on. And it's, if you think, again, I like to use the real life example of a pawn shop. In a pawn shop example, you go in, you take your watch, You present it to someone behind the counter. They say, we think this is worth $100, so we'll loan you out $40 on this, and you owe us back $60 within 6 months, let's call it. If you don't bring it back to us, we're going to sell your watch, and we'll keep the proceeds. If you do, we'll return the watch. And essentially what we've put together is a peer-to-peer model of that. So we have, in our case, two cohorts. To your point, we have borrowers and we have lenders. So to start off with, we'll talk about lenders. And lenders are basically people who own flow-based NFTs that we support, and they need or want liquidity. And so there could be a few reasons why you would want to borrow instead of simply sell your asset. And we do have a post out in our Medium, which is entitled kind of use cases for borrowers. But basically the common situations are you want to continue to own your asset, but you need liquidity today. So what you can do then is ask for a loan where you basically say, if I don't pay back your loan, I'm going to give you this NFT or this collateral. And what that does is it gives the lenders additional confidence, additional security that you'll actually pay them back. And if you don't, they get something in return for you not paying them back. So what that does is it really increases the number of people who will make that loan for you versus you just going out and saying, hey, a person who I don't know, anonymous person, will you loan me $100? I promise I'll pay you back $110. You'll just have to trust me. The collateral itself acts as security and an incentive for the borrower to pay back and security for the lender to make the loan. And I think it is helpful to kind of run through a few use cases. I'm going to bring it up on my side for where borrowers may view this as attractive. And we've highlighted a few, but there are lots of other things that people have already brought up. So one of them is market illiquidity. So you joked or didn't joke early on saying our illiquid assets. Everyone always likes to say that NFTs are illiquid. And even if something's listed for a floor of 100 ETH or 100 Flow tokens, that who knows what the actual market value is. And so there are a lot of times when you say, I'm holding an asset, I can't sell it for what I think it's worth and what I'm confident it's worth, but I need liquidity today. And that would be a really good opportunity to come to Flowty and to pledge your asset and say, this LeBron James Cosmic, I'm confident that within the next 2 months or so, I'll be able to sell it for $300,000. Today, I might only be able to get $150,000. So instead of selling it, I'm going to take a loan out for 3 months. And you can retain your asset. You can pay back the loan whenever you want. The second one is a lot of us are very deep in specific NFT communities, whether it's Top Shot or Ethereum-based communities, and you have a pretty good idea of what's coming on. If the Cool Cats just released their Milk token, for example, Bored Apes might be announcing a new real-life event in Miami or opening up a bar in Miami. Top Shot has announced that they're doing something to do with the dunk contest, but most of the world doesn't know that. You might say, this is a really good thing for the collection. I think prices are going to go up in the future. But even though I know prices are going to go up, I still need liquidity today. So instead, let me borrow against my asset. Third one is the community side of things, where people don't want to lose their sense of community and their sense of membership to that community. So instead of selling their asset and kind of giving up their membership card, they would borrow against it and be able to have access to it right away. Sentimental value is a big one. So especially with one-of-one NFTs, you can't just sell it and assume you can buy it back when you're ready. So instead, if you really value the asset itself, if it was a gift, if it's a special serial number, if you have a connection with the artist, whatever it is, you need liquidity, but you don't want to sell the asset, you can borrow against it. The fifth one's pretty interesting. It gets a little bit complicated from a financial standpoint, so I'll try and put into bite-sized pieces here. But if you have a large portfolio and you want to hedge your assets, meaning that if the underlying collection goes to zero, basically, or goes to 5% of its current value, that you've locked in some gains already. And so you can basically borrow against your assets. And if they do go down to zero, just simply don't repay your loan. Keep the amount you've borrowed, and you've been able to take some cash off the table in the event of a catastrophic collapse of a collection, which happens in this space. So it's an interesting way to hedge. And then the last one, which I think is important, is deferring capital gains taxes. So if you have a LeBron James moment, you bought for $1,000, today it's worth $200,000, you can sell it, but that will trigger depending on your tax bracket, $50,000, $100,000 of taxes. And if you want to go buy a car or use the capital otherwise or get some real life benefits, that's a big pill to swallow. So instead, what you can do is you can pledge your asset, borrow against it, not pay capital gains taxes, and you use the capital for now. So those are the use cases we see. We've seen lots and lots of interesting other use cases that our users have brought up already. But I think that those are the primary examples.
Yeah, and the last couple that you mentioned there, I feel like hedging is one that people sort of want to do, but don't really have a way to do it right now. People might be like, oh, heading up to the Super Bowl, they wanted to hedge apes because they didn't think that they were going to be at the halftime show and the price would go down. And then the other side with the capital gains tax is a lot of people I've talked to that they say they're waiting for that full year to sell certain items because of the extra tax hit that you'll get. So in this way, the first question that I had off of that is how, because the big thing with NFTs is ownership, right? So who would technically be owning that item during this time?
So it's a really good question, and it's very, very applicable for the Top Shot market because of the challenges of Top Shot right now, like the flash challenges they have and the set challenges. So the way the process works, and I'm happy you asked this because I kind of glossed it over, is a borrower comes to our platform and they open up a listing modal that allows them to basically choose the loan terms they want. So they would select an NFT that would act as the collateral, as we talked about. They would then choose an amount they want to borrow. They would choose an interest rate they're willing to pay and a length of the loan. And we have tons of guides about how people should think about those different inputs because it's not that easy of a decision. And I know Logan covered that in his write-up as well, which is fantastic. But essentially, you would then put up this listing, and the listing, which we'll go through the platform soon, but the listing appears in the marketplace, and it says, here's the collateral, here's the loan amount, here's the interest rate, here's the duration, and a lender would then come along, and as soon as a lender funds that, what happens is the NFT is pulled from the borrower's wallet and stored in our smart contract. The borrower receives the capital, and then the borrower basically has the length of the loan, the duration they chose to repay the amount they received plus the interest to the lender. If they don't repay in that time, the NFT or the collateral automatically gets transferred to the lender. As soon as they do repay, if they do, the NFT comes back to their account. So during the term of the loan, to your question, it's actually held by neither account, neither the borrower nor the lender. And so that is an important consideration for users. Yeah. Will I need access to this asset in the short term? And if I do need it unexpectedly, can I repay my loan in order to bring it back to my account?
Yeah. Because Frankie had this message in chat about borrowing legendary moments for premium drops or, say flash challenges. So you wouldn't actually be able to do that, correct? In this scenario?
So that's right, not yet. And I appreciate Frankie's question because we are working on a rental solution. So something that will enable you to rent moments on a short-term basis to either complete challenges, to help your collector score, to do anything along those lines, which is extremely valuable to Top Shot collectors and something that we hope to bring to people sooner rather than later.
Yeah. And Alex is wondering if Flowty will have recent sales information or floor prices for the moments so they can have an estimation there. Are you guys going to be providing this estimate?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I don't know if Alex has visited the platform at all. Can I share screen or is it too soon to share screen?
You share it.
Okay, let me go ahead with the share. Overs that's watching to see if I check the audio box here.
I hope we don't need audio for this though.
No, we don't. Okay, can you see this on your end?
Yes.
Okay, great. So if you go to a listing in the marketplace, and we can talk through exactly what we're looking at here, but just to address Alex's question, this Steph Curry hollow, it's a hollow icon from Series 2, serial number 55. On every single listing, we have a view asset link, and this will take you to Top Shot listing of that exact moment. And so the Top Shot listing includes quite a bit of information on sales history, recent sales, view the exact sales for this particular serial, complete sales history. So there's a lot of information that's just one click away. In terms of things that would be embedded, let me come back over here, that would be embedded. We are working with a few of the analytics platforms on embedding more information into our actual platform. So it's coming soon.
Yeah, and then obviously other information that's right here in front of you. It tells you what the repayment would be, sort of that loan rate, APR, and duration. Is there a minimum duration?
Yes, so that's a good question. Would it be helpful this one to do like the full run through? I feel like we're like halfway through now.
Yeah. Let's go sort of from scratch.
Okay, great. So this is our landing page. So here, let me disconnect my Blockto. So you would arrive at this page, and it's a pretty straightforward landing page, a brief how it works section, some links to key articles that we've put up to try and help users. And then we have a little summary of recently listed loans. And if you select any of these, they'll bring you to the listing itself. We have recently funded loans. So just as an example, this D'Angelo Russell was a $2,500 loan or $2,500 loan that someone funded, and the Cosmic owner then received the funds. We'll go through exactly what information is shared here, but just wanted to show that you can kind of link directly to the recently funded loan. Pretty standard footer at the bottom here. We've got links to our Twitter, to our Medium, to our Discord, and then where most of the action takes place is in our marketplace. So this layout is meant to sort of replicate the Top Shot experience. It's got the NFT, the loan amount, the repayment, the loan rate, and the APR. And so this is all most meaningful from the lender side of things. So you're a lender, you have capital, you're interested in making a loan to appear with the security of an NFT. You come along, you browse around, and you say, I see this Steph Curry hollow icon like we just talked about. I'm interested in this. I think it could be a good loan. So you can click into it to get a little bit more detail. You can get information on the asset down here. It's a Steph Curry. It's a hollow icon from Series 2, legendary tier. Here's a serial number, the team, the play type. As mentioned, you can click through to see the asset itself on the NBA Top Shot marketplace. And then most importantly, here are the terms of the loan. So right in the middle of the page, you would basically have to put in $5,054.40. You would be returned $5,184 within 90 days, or you would receive this asset, is basically how it works. So if you thought that was a compelling opportunity, you would click fund. $5,054.40 would be pulled from your account, sent to the borrower, and the borrower then has 90 days to repay the entirety of the repayment. If they don't, you get the NFT. If they do, they get the NFT back, and you get your repayment with your capital return.
Okay.
And then navigating kind of back to the marketplace here, we have a few, kind of sort functions here. You can sort by loan rate, you can sort by APR, loan amount, duration, and then we have our DeFi degen view, because people don't like to be bothered with that. So this is the more kind of familiar, just kind of tell me what the numbers are, I don't really care about anything else view. And so we think that's helpful for users. You can do a search up here. Then what we also have is an activity feed. So this shows kind of a summary of activity on the platform. So, just looking back here, we have the D'Angelo Russell Cosmic that was funded on February 13th. You can click into this if you want to see more information. It was funded. Here's the information. And this shows kind of all platform activity to give people an idea of what's going on. And we're going to continue to add information to this. Right now, you can't filter, but we'll allow you soon to filter by funded loans, repaid loans, listed loans, so you can start doing analysis and getting a better feel for the market. And really what our end goal here is once we gather data and we've had a significant enough transaction volume for us to have data and information, we'll have dashboards everywhere saying, here is where loans have generally priced from a loan to value standpoint, from an interest rate standpoint, from a duration standpoint. Here's what portion have been paid back. Here's what portion haven't been paid back. And importantly, I was talking to Logan about it this morning as he was writing his article. We really want to stress to lenders, don't look at the counterparty's wallet and their wallet history. You're free to, but just knowing that there are a lot of anonymous people here, that I can go and create 500 different Blockto wallets and just do transactions between my own wallet. If you rely on a borrower's repayment history for a loan, it's possible their repayment history has been manipulated in such a way that they actually wouldn't be that likely to pay you back. And so what we encourage people to do is look at the underlying asset, look at the NFT itself. If you're comfortable with the idea of receiving that NFT instead of a repayment, factoring in that prices may change during the term of the loan, then that should be your kind of key point of focus for making a loan rather than the counterparty itself. So a lot of people ask, will I be able to click into this opportunity and see who the counterparty is and what their repayment history is? And the answer is yes, but we are not, as a platform, going to say we view this borrower as an A+ borrower or an 800 credit score borrower. We're just going to say, here's data. You interpret it how you want. Here's a disclaimer saying that some of this may be self-dealing or essentially the wash trading equivalent on our platform. So just make sure you're good with the collateral.
Yeah, and that was one thing I was thinking about, is sort of how you vet on both sides, really. Are you mostly trusting Dapper? Do you do your own sort of KYC or anything like that?
So we don't do KYC, and the reality is we don't really have to trust anyone, and no one has. I mean, people have to trust that our smart contracts work, but aside from that, all the borrower has to bring to the table is an NFT, and all the lender has to bring to the table is tokens. And as long as either party does, we're not concerned with who is on the other side of that. And there's no way for a borrower to hurt a lender, assuming the lender has not been manipulated or misled as to what the collateral is. So as long as what the collateral is truly what it is, and the lender is comfortable with the loan amount relative to the value of the asset, there's really nothing the borrower can do to in any way be malicious towards the lender. And from the lender perspective, that they are just filling a loan and either being repaid or receiving the NFT back. It could be a malicious individual, but there's really nothing they can do. And so from our standpoint, we have to make sure that our tech is sufficient that we can detect if something is from the wrong collection, or if this is a fake Giannis moment, for example.
Yeah.
But we're obviously very careful about that on our end, and assuming we can hold up our end of the bargain, the lenders and borrowers shouldn't be overly concerned about who they're dealing with on the other side.
Yeah, and then obviously there's different durations on there. So with the 30 days versus 90 days, are there payments over time? I think at one point you mentioned like they could pay before the end of the time. If you pay before the end, do you pay less? Is it based on, say you have a 90-day loan, but you pay after 75 days? Will it auto adjust for that?
So it's a good question. As of now, it's a simple binary outcome. If you have a 90-day loan and you pay after 14 days, your payment would be the exact same as if you've paid after 89 days. And there are no milestone payments. These are all things that we're working on to bring in the future, more flexible loan structures, different loan structures, milestone payments, things like that. One interesting thing on the lender side of the equation that we're working on is that when you make a loan, you're issued an NFT that represents a claim to the loan, basically. And if you need as a lender liquidity early on, you can then sell the claim to the loan to someone else in a secondary market. Or if we want to go in this direction, you could even borrow against the claim to the loan effectively. And so what I think would be helpful, if you don't mind, you started asking questions about this before, is on the borrower side of the equation. So we've kind of gone through on the lender side. You evaluate the marketplace. You see, do you think the loan amount is fair relative to the underlying asset? If so, you can go ahead and fund it. On the borrower side, the way it works is you connect your wallet up here, which I've done. You would open up this new listing modal, and these are basically within my inventory assets that are usable on Flowty. And so you presented with your different NFTs, and so just for our purposes, I'm going to select a Christian Wood hollow icon. So you would advance to the next page. Now, this page looks somewhat imposing, I think, when you first get to it, but basically what it does is it shows you kind of the borrower perspective of the loan and how it works in the marketplace. And so just as an example, if I wanted to receive $4,000, if the loan is filled, I would put $4,000 in here. If I'm comfortable paying 10% over a 100-day period, then I would input those terms. And so in order for me to receive this loan package, a lender would have to fund this package. And the difference between these two is that the lender puts in 4,240. 40 of that, and we can walk through the calculation, would be our fee in this example. 200 of that is set aside as a collection royalty. Now, I'll spend a moment here because it's a little bit of a confusing concept, but basically, as everyone in the NFT space knows, there are royalties on transactions of NFTs. So any marketplace transaction, if people are doing it above board at least, there's a royalty that is given to the original artist, the original issuer of the NFT. And we think as a platform, it's extremely important to honor that. It's in line with the kind of crypto ethos, and we like the idea of royalties. And so what our situation is a little bit different because we don't know upfront if there's going to be a transfer of an NFT. So this collection royalty is held in escrow, and basically, if the borrower repays, the royalty is returned to the lender. If the borrower does not repay and there's a transfer of the NFT, the royalty is sent directly to the NFT issuer or to the artist or to the creator of the NFT, the person who's owed the royalty. And so the flow would be lender pays in 4,240. We collect our fee. $200 in this example is set aside in our smart contract. We don't even have access to it. And the remaining 4,000 is sent directly to the borrower. The borrower receives 4,000. They have 100 days to pay back 4,400, which is 4,000 with a 10% interest rate, as you've inputted yourself. Then if they do pay back, this 4,400 plus the 200 collection royalty would go back to the lender as the repayment. And so from the lender's perspective, they're putting in 4,240. They would receive back 4,600. So their return is 8.49%. From the borrower's perspective, they receive 4,000. They owe back 4,400. So their cost of capital is 10% effectively. And that's what we're looking at here. And so assuming this is the loan you wanted to go with, you would click list. One thing, I guess, before we move on here, if you wanted it to look super clean and nice in the marketplace because you thought it'd be more likely to be funded if it was clean round numbers, you can actually input on this side also. So you can say, I want the lender to put in 4,000 and I want the lender to receive 10%. And then this is what you would receive on your end. You would receive $3,767.20. So it's flexible either way. And then you would basically go ahead and any questions, I guess, before I move on here?
No, I think that, like you said, it shows all of the details in real time as you're typing them in, what you want the percent to be. The collection royalty, it's good that you had explained it in that way, where it's sort of like, I don't know, whenever you go and like put anything down, they usually have some sort of hold on your account. So it's kind of like a hold on the account, right? Where you'll get it back assuming everything goes well. So that's sort of the peace of mind in a way. So I kind of like that that's added in there. But yeah, I think this was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and importantly on the royalty side, a big thing for us is we don't want our platform to be used as a way for people to circumvent marketplaces. If people wanted to, they could come and they could list a loan for the full price of an asset, sell the asset, basically with 0% interest. Let's call it near 0% interest. And someone could fund the asset and there would basically be a mutual understanding. I'm not repaying this loan. So I basically sold you the asset and we were able to circumvent royalties because this is not a traditional marketplace. So we want to make sure that our platform is not used for that purpose. We have a lot of respect for the creators in the space and don't want to be the medium that people use to circumvent royalties.
Yeah. And so then, like, for simplicity, in a case like this, and you don't have to necessarily give out like your secret sauce, but the Christian Wood legendary, you're saying loan amount is 4,000. If say the floor price or recent sales, if they were higher, like say those were 5,000, would you want to have a loan for more than 5,000?
So yeah, so this gets a little bit financial again, but basically, if you were to list a loan for a larger amount than the value of the underlying asset, it's unlikely. I can't say it's impossible. It's unlikely that a lender will come in and fill that loan, because the likely outcome would be, let's say, for example, this Christian Wood is worth $1,000. I put it up for a $4,000 loan. The lender puts in $4,000. I receive $3,800. From the borrower standpoint, your decision is basically, do I want to repay $4,211.64 in order to get my Christian Wood back, which would basically be paying $4,211.64 for a Christian Wood asset, or just keep the money. And in all likelihood, if you're financially motivated, you will probably just keep the money. So from the lender's standpoint, they're looking for there to be a margin of safety between the value of the asset and the loan amount. And that's what the lender's comfortable, or can be comfortable with, a 10% return, because which is lower than one might expect in a general NFT, and that they may accept a lower return because there's a margin of safety. Even if let's say this is worth $10,000, for example, if it falls 40% to $6,000, the borrower is probably going to still repay you. The borrower is sitting there saying, I can pay back $4,211 for a $6,000 asset. I'm going to do that. And so from a lender's side, you get a return even though the asset fell by 40%. And that's part of the appeal of the platform, we think at least, where you can get debt-like exposure to NFTs, where generally right now, you can buy the outright NFT and you're fully exposed. If it drops by 15%, 20%, you lose 15 or 20%. There's no protections, there's no seniority of payouts. And with normal financial instruments, with stocks, with companies, with anything else, they can borrow at a debt level. And if the company falls 20% in value, the debt holders are likely being repaid in full, which gives you a different way to get exposure to NFTs. Not everyone's comfortable with the full exposure, wearing all the downside, getting all the upside. Some people want a different exposure. And so we think that our platform allows people to get that.
Yeah. So I think that explained it pretty well. We do have a question. So if I repay in 3 weeks, how long before I receive my NFT back? Is that the same? And sort of a piggyback question off of that I had was, a lot of times on Top Shot, you have to wait a week to actually send the item. Does that apply with you guys as well?
So first, appreciate the questions from the chat. That's helpful. I like that a lot. If you repay, as soon as you repay, actually here, why don't we give a real life example? So I have a few outstanding loans, just from an activity standpoint. And so just as an example, this Vince Carter loan, I basically took a loan out. And so this is from the lender perspective. The lender put in 725. The lender will receive back 747. For me to repay, I pay back $713.43. The difference between these two is the collection royalty, basically. So I'll repay this. Our smart contract will tack on the collection royalty. And so the lender will receive this total amount. But I will now go ahead and repay this loan real time. And so the transaction's processing. I'm going to approve the transaction here. You can actually, if you want, you can watch the transaction on FlowScan, same way you can on EtherScan. And this is now processing. And while this is processing, Lou, I'll answer your question. So in order for someone to interact with Flowty, they've actually taken their moment off of the Top Shot platform into Blockto. So they've pulled it off of Top Shot. So the loan was successfully repaid here. And let's see how quick. So I just repaid the Vince Cosmic, and it's already in my account. There we go. So,
okay, so this is pretty seamless.
Yeah, it's instant. It processes as quickly as the blockchain processes a transaction, basically. So in answer to your question, the gifting restrictions that come from Top Shot do not apply for us because any Top Shot restrictions don't apply off of Top Shot. So as soon as you've pulled the asset off of the Top Shot platform, it's unencumbered, 100% yours. And so while it is in our smart contract, there's no gifting restrictions that we have to wait 7 days after a transaction. It's all instant. And if I were to, going back to, actually, this is a good time. We haven't really covered this section of the website. So this is kind of your personal information. All this activity are things that I've done on the platform.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the borrower side. These are things I've done as a borrower, basically. These are things I've done as a lender, which is more limited. And yeah, so this kind of shows us exactly what is going on, if you've repaid a loan, if a loan's been funded, so on and so forth. And then, yeah, there's, if I didn't repay a loan, I guess going back to this section, if I have a loan, this is due on February 26th. If I didn't repay this NFT would transfer right to the lender.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that seems to answer the question from all right, Superstar. And then the next thing I wanted to talk about was, I know you'd mentioned Blockdo. Is this integrated with a Dapper wallet? Say I had $5,000 in my Dapper wallet. Would I be able to use those funds, or do I have to transfer them?
So you do have to transfer them now. We're hoping to add more support soon. There's actually a nice tool on Flow called FCL, which is Flow Client Library, which basically allows you to tap into kind of every wallet that's supported on Flow. But the Dapper wallet is permission based right now. We need to get permission from Dapper to support it, and so we're working on that now. But for now, the funds and the NFTs have to be in your Blockto account to interact with the platform.
Yeah, and a Blockto wallet is similar to that of, say, like a MetaMask for Ethereum, and this is just for Flow specifically. So that also transitions into the idea: do you think you're going to move into other Flow marketplaces? There's UFC Strike, NFL All Day. I'm not sure if you're trying to do anything with the Ballers as of now, because I believe those are FUSD as well, but I think they're connected to Dapper. So what sort of other places are you going with this, and is it all going to be Flow, you think?
So yeah, really good question. So in terms of Flow itself, we're actively working now on adding new collections to support. So we support Top Shot right now, NFL and UFC. You guys might have seen the marketplaces are being released soon. UFC actually was released yesterday. I think it was down for maintenance, and the point is it's out though, and should be able to be withdrawable to Blockto at some point in the relatively near future. And as soon as it is, we'll support it on our platform. In terms of other collections on Flow, Flowvitar, Versus, Art, Ballers, Hoodlums, yeah, we'll be supporting all of those, as quickly as we can. In terms of overall Flow ecosystem, there is, because it's a newer blockchain and there's less infrastructure around it, there's less standardization than there is in Ethereum right now. So it's not as easy, at least upfront, to just kind of accept all NFTs. There are things you have to do, things you have to test, and metadata is presented in a different way across different NFTs. And so the standardization is coming. And so we're working on all that. We should have collection support for other collections as soon as next week. Actually, we're very focused on that. And you asked about other chains. Our plan, at least for the midterm, even the mid to long term, is to stay very focused on Flow. We're big believers in the Flow ecosystem, and that what they've built and their ability to scale in such a significant way and to support enormous transaction volume and the brands they're aligned with and the user base they have. We think that's a really exciting thing for us, and there's plenty for us to do here and build out and build our name. And we also think, we are a team of people who are known in the space, and the trust is really important in the crypto space. There are a lot of anonymous teams. There are teams that aren't familiar to Flow users who, look, you're tying up very valuable assets here. I mean, this Steph Curry asset, I don't know, we can look here. The low ask on it is, let's see, I don't know. There's been a $45,000 sale for it. It's a $10,000 asset. It's not nothing. You don't want to lock this up on a platform you don't trust. And so we have that level of trust on Flow. On Ethereum, it's a more crowded space. So even though we're relatively known people as a team, we do feel like we have a reputation in the Flow community, and we're participants there and can give people a level of security and comfort.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's important right now, it's legendary items only, correct?
That is correct. And so it's not actually a Flowty limitation. It's what Dapper has allowed from the Dapper and the NBA, I should say, in terms of the Top Shot assets going non-custodial. So I think back in October, Dapper and the NBA announced that legendary moments would be non-custodial, meaning you can withdraw them off of Top Shot. Rare and common moments are not. We hope that they'll be supported soon, because there are a lot of people who have rare assets or have common assets who would want to use the platform but can't right now. And it's something we hope we can support in the future. We get that question pretty often, kind of when rares, when commons.
Yeah, and I think it's an important distinction because some people might think, oh, like I have this rare moment that's series 1, a rookie or something that's worth 10,000, and they're interested in using the platform, but it's not a dollar amount. It's really just like the item, it's type. I guess it's kind of like a trait in a way, that the legendary rarity. So do you expect when they start doing they call them ultimates, the 1 of 3s, do you expect those to come out as non-custodial?
It's a good question. I don't have any insight, unfortunately. I'd hope so, for our purposes and for the flexibility and utility for collectors, but it's hard to say.
Yeah, and I think that there are still ways that you would be able to use this in sort of flash challenges and stuff like that. Maybe you found that flash challenges right now are the best way to use the marketplace. And so it's that liquidity that you can go buy, like say it's one of those hard challenges, right? That might cost a little more. You want some liquidity of this, $5,000 in order to achieve those moments. And then who knows, maybe you could then stack some of those later and lend those out. There's all different steps that could go along with that. So the other thing that I wanted to ask was, you mentioned that you're going to be participating on this. Are you getting flack from people about using the platform yourself, or is that something that, as of now, people are perfectly fine with because it's all out there? How much it's on the blockchain? We know if you're lending, when you're lending.
Yeah. So, whoops! I just stopped sharing instead of sharing the right tab. Give me one sec. It's a good question. So actually, before I dive into that, you touched on something that I think is really important, in that there are a lot of opportunities to use Flowty to kind of address short-term market situations. We'll say where there are a lot of people who basically say, I know a challenge is plus EV. Basically, it's smart for me to do. You can buy the components at such a price that it's profitable to buy them and get the challenge mode, but I don't have that liquidity up front. And so, yeah, Flowty is definitely useful. Even, you don't necessarily need to have a flat tire to need to take out a loan. It could be from an investment standpoint, where accessing that liquidity allows you to complete a challenge, and then you could essentially go and sell the challenge moment, repay your loan, and collect the difference in terms of profitability. We obviously encourage everyone to be super careful and thought out about that. If your plan doesn't work out as well as intended, and you don't have the capital to pay back your loan, your asset is at risk. So just be careful. But in terms of your question, in terms of our participation, we're very, very conscious of that. We obviously all saw what happened with Nate from OpenSea about kind of user involvement. And so this was our post that we put out. Am I sharing this properly? Thanks, Lou. This is our post that we put out when we launched in beta. And essentially, we kind of walk through why we did it and some details about what users can expect. And we highlight here Flowty team member participation. And so what we've basically said is while we're in beta and we want to be able to test and experience the platform, that we will participate. But as soon as we're out of beta, which we hope won't be too long, we don't have the Top Shot beta timeline in mind. As soon as we're out of beta, we're no longer going to participate. And so we've basically said to people, if you're not comfortable with our participation, like, we understand, we'll be out of beta at some point in the future, and we encourage you to kind of revisit then. But from our standpoint, it's really important that we can test new features, that we can kind of go out and show the platform to people, show how it works, like what I just did on stream for the repayment of the Vince Carter.
Yeah, it's similar to how Top Shot handled it as well, where they had the early access to it, and then long-term plans weren't going to. So then, I guess in general, like, you've been using Flow now as part of this. You mentioned Cadence. Do you think that, like, adding another sort of like Ethereum or anything connected to like Solana, things like that, um, do you think that it would just make sense to stay on one? Like, obviously, the name is Floaty, but um, do you think that it would basically have to be like rebuilt from scratch in order to get onto one of those other ones? And it's kind of like just stick with what you know, at least for the short term.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot to do in the Flow ecosystem. I mean, practically there are essentially no other platforms that provide kind of services and financial tooling around flow-based NFTs right now. And there are a lot of different things we can provide and what we can offer and we can bring to the table. We would have to essentially build from scratch if we wanted to move to Solana or Ethereum, but we're qualified to do so. Our CTO Austin was at OpenSea before we brought him over to Flowty, so he's very familiar with that ecosystem, and so we can. But we like the idea of focusing our efforts on Flow. We like the Flow ecosystem. We think there's a ton of growth in the future. We are very close with a lot of the builders and creators in the ecosystem, so it's helpful for kind of reaching out for cross promotions and collaborations and things like that. And so we think that there's a long way to go before we've tapped out Flow and feel the need to move on to other chains.
Cool. Yeah, and I was just gonna bring up this is the article that Logan put out earlier today. So, if you watch this or you're listening to the audio and had more interest on, specifics on how to get in there, Logan broke down a lot of this as well. So I think it was good. It breaks out, borrowers using, lenders using, things like the fees, as we mentioned before. Was there anything that we haven't gotten to that you think is important to note?
So I think first, Logan did an awesome job on this. I'm probably just going to delete our primer that we put up and just put a link to what he did. I thought it was a really good breakdown. I mean, we can, if it's helpful, go into like the nitty gritty of how our fees are calculated and things like that. But I don't know if that's necessarily the best use of time, rather than just kind of pointing people to the article. I thought Logan did a great job of it. Other than that, I mean, I think we've covered everything. If
Yeah.
there's anything else you wanted to drill in on, obviously happy to address it. Yeah.
And we could sort of do a last call for questions here. I know that so D-Ming was asking, I think we sort of covered this on the roadblocks, but if it's an item that would be part of a challenge, you aren't able to use it anyway, even if you grabbed it from someone else, because it's going to sit in the smart contract. This is really more for getting the liquidity to then buy the giddy moment on the marketplace itself.
I would say for now, yes, we're working on solutions that would allow basically people who are stacking. It's tough because if you have, I don't know, in an extreme example, 100 giddies, it's not that easy to kind of take advantage of a situation where the giddy price pops in the short term. You end up kind of cannibalizing your own value. So instead, what you might want to do is loan it out instead of selling it. And there's no real way to do that right now without a trust-based solution. And on the other side, the DMANG side of the equation, you you'd want to borrow the asset. You don't want to shell out the $450 for the giddy, but an owner might let you borrow it for $40 or a $50 Top Shot moment or something like that. And so we're working on solutions for that latter use case.
Yeah, especially, I know you mentioned Arsenic, and he has that big Cody Zeller collection. Because I think this is very different from, say, like a fractional art, what they're doing over there, fractionalizing. However, like I do think there's some features that they have that you guys can use as well. Do you ever see the potential of having, say, like a set that people lend out, or bundling moments together?
Yeah, definitely on the roadmap to allow borrowers to bundle several NFTs together. And where I think that's useful is, let's say you need to borrow $12,000 and you have five $4,000 assets. You could put them all up separately, but then what happens if three of them get filled and the other two don't? Then you're in the situation where you don't have enough capital to do what you need to, but your assets are locked up and you owe interest. And so being able to bundle them in one shot and just saying, would love to get this amount using all five of them in one shot is a very advantageous tool. So it's definitely something we're working on. And the other side of the equation, which is group lenders, will say one person wants to borrow $50,000 and 10 people will each put in $5,000. And so there are a few different features we're working on and that are part of our roadmap.
Yeah, I think that could be kind of cool. I wasn't even really thinking of it that way, where maybe in a sense, like five people come together and fractionally lend in that way. Then we have another comment here from Frankie that he says he needs to talk about your sneaky quick on the basketball court plus a deadly 15-foot jumper. So how was that? I know last week you were at the Top Shot All-Star game. Is that what they called it?
The NFT All-Star game. Here we
Yeah.
go. It was a really cool event. Pack drip from the Top Shot community basically locked down the entire NBA Hall of Fame for us. At 3:30, they shut it down to the public, and we went down to the kind of center court that is a kind of well-known basketball court in the world. A lot of the NBA players have played there, former NBA players, and it was a really fun event overall. We had a 3-point contest, we had a dunk contest on an 8-foot hoop, a 9-foot hoop, and we had a game itself, all kind of Top Shot content creators. And it was similar to our Vegas experience, where it's really cool to kind of meet everyone that you've spent so much time chatting with and having a good time with online, but meeting them in person and grabbing drinks together. We had dinner together afterwards, and it was great. I'll make sure to highlight this as often as I can, but Mike Zakarian was guarding me at one point, and he decided to pick me up at half court, and I blew past him for a layup, and as we were jogging down the court the other way, he said, "That's going to end up on a content creator Top Shot moment, isn't it?" So that was my primary highlight. I scored 4 points, so I will point to that as my key highlight. But it was a lot of fun, and there was a wedgie. So the No Dunks boys, Trey and Skeets, are probably pretty pumped about that. Yeah.
Do they have enough footage to put together some moments? I'm sure there's probably someone, especially with like Mike's community. He has a lot of people at Team Hold that like to make little videos like that.
I'm
I
sure
could
there
see
are
them
plenty
doing.
coming.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know JPEG Trainer was one of the guys on our team. He's the guy who started a company called Move, and he won the 9-foot dunk contest with the Vince Carter like dunk where his arm goes all the way in and he like hangs on by his elbow. And it was awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it was great having you on. I think we got over a lot of things that people come to us, and a lot of this is high level, but I think we broke it down pretty well. And obviously, if you have more questions, you can go to that article that we have on Lucky Trader. And I'm sure if there's any specific questions, like you would be available to help as well. I know Flowty on Twitter. Do you have any specific other plugs that you wanted to get out before we leave here?
No, I think, for people who just want to kind of check out the platform, you don't need to connect a wallet to just browse the platform. Just, kind of go check it out, hop in the Discord. We're doing giveaways all the time. If you have questions, feel free to check out the Discord, the frequently asked questions on our Medium. You can DM our Flowty account on Twitter. And yeah, we're excited about bringing a new tool to the ecosystem. We understand it's a little bit imposing for many, so we're very happy to answer any questions you have. Don't feel like any question is kind of too easy or anything else. People should understand the platform they're using, the product they're using, and so ask away. And yeah, hopefully people are as excited about the platform as we are. We think it brings a lot to the ecosystem.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks again for hopping on. For those watching, like I have another stream coming up later tonight at 6 with a graffiti artist who's turning into NFTs. He goes by Seek One. If people have heard that name before, but he's friends with a few of the Bales, so we're gonna have him on later today. But yeah, definitely, if you guys want, check out at Lucky Trader. It's called the Borrowing and Lending with Flowty by Logan Hitchcock, one of our head editors here at Lucky Trader. So thanks for watching today. We'll catch you guys next time.